Jim Hager is a well-known railroad photographer and is no stranger to the industry. He has worked in the field of transportation for the last 27 years in many capacities from train to buses. He currently works with the New York, New Jersey Rail as a conductor and engineer. Jim, if I'm wrong with any of the stuff, jump in.
Yep,
Between
no,
2022 to 24, he was with the Strasburg Railroad as the president and general manager. That's a pretty special place to my family.
yep. I'm doing the same thing in New York, New Jersey. I'm managing director there, but I do run trains when needed.
Okay, excellent. But Jim was responsible for, and again, jump in here, but the passengers with including entertainment, food, beverages, and freights, mechanical sides, all the different components. He's going to be doing a PowerPoint tonight on the Strasburg Railroad portion of his career. And again, a really special thing for me and my family. So it's pretty exciting. Um, Jim, there's some other things, but if you want to do some explanations to do an intro for yourself, I'll turn it over. And on behalf of the group, thank you for taking the time tonight to be doing this for us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I wanted to be up there in person. That was the original plan, but I ended up in Connecticut at the Northeast Rail Shipper Association of Rail Shippers conference tonight. So I got here at about 5. So I didn't have enough time to get up there and back, but maybe another time. So
Sure.
let me get the slideshow up here and we can get started. What I did is the original program was going to be Strasbourg, which is still in there, but I added a couple slides about New York, New Jersey, because that's pretty interesting as well. So let me bring this up. Oop, too many. Get back up a little bit. Okay, is that working? Can everybody see that?
Good here.
Okay. So anyway, about me, right now I'm managing director of New York, New Jersey Rail and the Port Jersey Railroad, which are both owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Been in that position for a little over a year now. My other job is DSLE, train master, et cetera, for Chesapeake and Delaware, which is also the Black River Rail System. It's made up of 5 railroads: Black River and Western, Belvedere and Delaware, Dover and Delaware, Dover and Rockaway River, and the Delaware and Raritan River. When I'm not doing that, I am president and captain of the Amwell Valley Fire Company in Ringoes, New Jersey, and I'm a member of Raritan Township's Office of Emergency Management. Prior to that, I was president and general manager at Strasburg for about 2 years and ran a school bus company where I lived from 1989 up to 2015. And I started this whole thing with trains. If you want to go way, way back, I had a train set under the Christmas tree when I was like 2 that would run around like a Lionel set. And it just kind of escalated from there. Um, I started as with Black River as ride. I used to ride along on freight trains because two of the owners were introduced to me at a restaurant when I was in like 7th or 8th grade. They were eating in there, and my parents were eating in there, and it just kind of came together from there on. And I was in there. I was the engineer and conductor for Southern Rare in New Jersey part time for a few years from '98 to 2005. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. We'll start the program with where I am now, New York, New Jersey Rail. It's a short line that runs in Jersey City, New Jersey, and Brooklyn, New York, and it's connected by floating barges. We have the only barge operation on the East Coast, so I thought that'd be kind of neat to share with you guys too. So we'll run through that. The picture here is the float bridge in Brooklyn. So New York, New Jersey Rail has 2 divisions, the Marine Division and the Port Jersey Division. New York Cross Harbor Railroad was established in 1983, derived from the Brooklyn East District Terminal, Bush Terminal, and New York Dock Railroads, and they all played a part in the history of industrial railroading and car float services around New York Harbor. New York, New Jersey Rail was established in 2005 with the acquisition of the New York Cross Harbor Railroad. We run the car floats 4 days a week. Currently, we're trying to do 5 if we can, but the tug company that we're under contract with doesn't do Mondays uh, for whatever reason. The trip is about 4.5 miles across the harbor. It takes about 45 minutes on average. The wind conditions, weather conditions, tides can limit operations. The barge is actually like a giant sail, so it becomes tough to handle if it's windy out. So the tug company can, refuse to take it that day for safety reasons. It also limits what we can put on there because if the tide's too high or too low, certain cars like the 90-foot flat cars and such, they can't make the grade up onto the barge. So it all kind of works out. The float bridges lift up and down. One's hydraulic, one's mechanical, and we kind of have to somebody has to be out there working the bridges while we're loading the cars. And so you'll hear if you're if you listen to the radio at all, if you're down that way, you'd hear, up a little, down a little right there. So it's kind of like a constant motion with it. New York, New Jersey Rail was purchased by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey in 2008, and it's a continuation of over 100 years now of marine railroading. We own 2 metal trades built barges. They were both built in 2017. Each one has 4 tracks. They hold average of 18 cars, 5 on the outer tracks, 4 on the inner tracks. They're numbered 100 and 200. We operate with 2 crews, one in Brooklyn and one in Greenville. Both go on duty at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. And the Brooklyn crew usually works Saturday mornings as well, also at 6. But because of the waiver, we can't call it 6. We have to call it 6:01. So that's what we do. On the weekends, traffic on New York, New Jersey includes beverages, building supplies, food, cement, flour. Got food in there twice. Ha, bad cut and paste. Machinery, metal, scrap, paper, pipe, recyclables, steel, new subway cars going over to Jersey City to get scrapped, new locomotives, new maintenance away equipment, and some non-hazmat oils. As I said earlier, we're the only remaining car float operation on the East Coast. There's only 2 in the United States, and the other one is in Alaska. In this picture, you have 2 of our locomotives on shoving onto the barge. That's one of the new New York City Transit hybrid locomotives. There's 25 of them coming. We're on number 14 right now. And then they just signed a contract for an extension on that. So I believe they're going to get another 30 or so. Locomotive wise, we have 3 Knoxville Locomotive Works SE10Bs, which are 1,000 horsepower. They were all built in May of 2015. They're low emissions diesels. They're 10 years old now, and they're maintained by Knoxville Locomotive Works. They have a mechanic that covers the New York and Philadelphia area, and if he's tied up or overwhelmed, they send somebody up from Tennessee to work on them. And we have one leased unit that's kind of a one-of-a-kind unit. It's called the TE 474E, of which we call the Franken Loco. It's part Alco, part EMD, part KLW, and part somebody. It's a little mixture of everything. It's kind of like an S2 with a Jeep long hood on it, and that's leased for a year for as our backup locomotive. This is Greenville Yard, Jersey City, looking from the float bridge tower west. To the left is an intermodal terminal that Conrail operates. Some of the scrap subway cars you'll see on the right on track 12. Just to the right of the picture, kind of you can see a building with a brown roof. The bulk of the facility is out of view there, but The subway cars, basically, they're picked off with a giant forklift and moved across the grass there via road to the scrap yard and cut up. The white building straight ahead is Tropicana's distribution center. Greenville has 27 acres of land. It's long-term leased from Conrail. There's 13 tracks in there. All 13 tracks are welded rail with steel ties. We do transload along track 12 where subway cars are. That's the hydraulically operated float bridge, and we interchange with both CSX and Norfolk Southern via Conrail, which is right at the throat of the yard that you were just looking at. And then Port Jersey Railroad is also ties into that yard, but we can't move stuff between Greenville and the Port Jersey because of Conrail with the intermodal terminal and an interlocking that was put in there. So they do all the moving of cars for us from one to the other. So basically, they'll deliver cars to New York, New Jersey, and Greenville. We'll sort them out, what's staying there, what's going to Brooklyn, and what needs to go over to Port Jersey. And then Conrail will come back either later or the next day and then flip the cars over to Port Jersey for us. Here's a picture here of barge being brought in by one of the tugboats, the Bruce McAllister. We use McAllister Towing as our contract operator. Barges are ours, tugboats are theirs. This is what the barge looks like when it's hooked to the float bridge. It's tied in by steel pins and rope, large like sea vessel rope. There's two locomotives unloading the barge over in Brooklyn at 65th Street. There's two bridges there, North Bridge and South Bridge. Right now, the North Bridge is the only one in service. The South Bridge is being restored, and then the North Bridge will be worked on after that. And over in New York, we have 33 acres of land that is leased from the New York EDC. 15 acres are used for transloading. We have loading dock and truck transfer space and ground storage space. 12 tracks, traditional jointed rail, nothing fancy over there. We interchange with the New York and Atlantic Railway, which we're their main bridge route for Norfolk Southern to get to New York City and Long Island markets. And we also connect with New York City Transit's South Brooklyn Railway. First Avenue Industrial Tract goes north out of 65th Street Yard, runs about a mile from 63rd Street to 39th Street. The majority of it sits right in the middle of First Avenue, so we have to deal with traffic and parking issues and stuff every time we try to go up there. There's a small yard there that's no longer used. That area is being redeveloped. The film company purchased some of the property there, and they're turning it into studios and such. That yard has about 5 tracks. The only thing we use in there is the runaround that's attached to the main. And as I said earlier, they go up there every Saturday morning, and sometimes, if necessary, in the middle of the week, on either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what the customers up there need. Now, the other division is the Port Jersey Railroad. That basically runs in between all the warehouses in the industrial district, right? They're all, like I said, they're basically connected, except for we can't connect them because of Conrail track in the middle. This is the I'll go back real quick. The tugboat operation, in case anybody was curious, it costs us about $5,000 a day to at $950 an hour to float cars back and forth. So that's a large chunk of change for that service. All right, Port Jersey was founded in 1970. It's a switching railroad in the industrial warehouse district along Port Jersey Boulevard, Colony Road, and Industrial Drive. It sits right pretty much alongside Route 440 and the New Jersey Turnpike. The old PJR had a Southern Railway NW2, which was number 1032, and they had 3, I'd say trackmobile, but they could have been something else, but they were rail car movers. I was little when they had them. They bought the 1197 later from Mopac, and that replaced the 1032. That short line was also acquired by the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey 2 years after they purchased New York, New Jersey Rail in 2010. That railroad operates Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, also on duty at 6 a.m. It's about a mile and 1.6 miles of main line, and there's a few spurs that come off of it. We have 7 customers. Traffic includes adult beverages, building supplies, food products, manufactured goods, paper. Um, we have 2 or 3 warehouses still that are available for lease there that can be rail served. We just actually are in the process of putting a siding back into one of them to move food products for Cargill. So we'll have another customer there. And same at it, we interchange with Conrail, and that gets us direct access to CSX and Norfolk Southern. Port Jersey operates with 2 locomotives, 1133, which is a former Union Pacific SW 1500, and 2293, which is a former Southern Pacific SW 1200. 1197, which was the locomotive that came with the railroad. That's old Mopac unit, as I said, it was built in 63. That is out of service and retired now. It may end up being a core for a genset or electric locomotive. Since we're owned by the Port Authority, they're very big on green power, electric locomotives, and hydrogen. They're talking all kinds of things other than your standard old diesel, which I like. Right, in this picture, the trains work in Judge and Sons, which is our largest customer over there. They are a large distributor of beverages and alcohol. They have 3 sidings. They connect all the cars together. They go just straight across out the loading dock into one car, out that car into the next one, into the next one, using steel plates. So they have a pretty efficient operation, and they can move quite a few cars in and out in a day. That's the 1197. And that's the view from my office, which is the Statue of Liberty and New York skyline. So that's where I'm at now. If anybody has any questions, we can do that now, I guess, while we're on that part of the program. And then we'll move on when you're done with questions, if there's any, to the other railroads. So basically, I've gone from steam trains to car floats. It's kind of, I've hit both ends of the interesting railroads around the area. So we'll no questions. We'll just continue.
I do have one question
Go ahead, sir.
on the barge. How much time does it take to go from the Jersey Shore to Brooklyn by barge? And secondly, what do you do in bad weather like snowstorms and things like that?
Takes about 45 minutes on average, depending on what's going on. If it's fleet week or something, it becomes a nightmare. Um, it's actually, if I have to go over to Brooklyn, a lot of times I'll just ride the barge over because it's quicker than driving, even though it's not that far of a distance. It just takes forever. Weather, depending on the type of weather, the barge tugboat company won't go if it's too windy or too stormy and such. As far as the barge part of that goes, we have to clean it off and make it safe for their deckhands to walk on it and such when they're hooking up to the float bridges on shore. As far as putting the rail cars on it and tying them down and stuff, that's all on us.
I lived in New York and New Jersey, about 30 years ago, and I
Mhm.
never knew you guys existed. This is very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden railroad down there, and down the street from us is the East Jersey Railroad and Terminal Company, which even less people have heard of because it's mainly in the IMTT terminal, and they only come out they come out to switch the other plant or to go to Conrail, and that's the only time you would see them. So it's like you got to be really lucky to catch them outside the fence, basically.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the presentation. Very good.
And thank you. And we're fenced in. We're owned by the Port Authority, because of the car floats, we're U.S. Coast Guard regulated as well. So when I got there, I had to take a U.S. Coast Guard class to become a facility security officer, and we report. We have to report everything to Coast Guard, and they come and do inspections and audits as well. So that's kind of interesting. And my previous position with Strasburg, we'll go into that. Strasburg Railroad Company was chartered in 1832. It was formed as a passenger and freight railroad connecting Lemon Place, Pennsylvania, and Strasburg. It was sold to local interests in the mid 1950s to keep the railroad alive. It was on the verge of abandonment at that point. And them folks started tourist train operations in 1958. There are 237 owners of the railroad. It's privately held. And of that 237 people, the majority of them were townsfolks and people in Lancaster County that bought a share or 5 shares or 10 shares. There's a very large amount of small shareholders in that. There are 3 people that own the bulk of the railroad. They own, I'd say probably about 68% of it is held by 3 people. Gentleman that lives in Texas, gentleman that's family founded the railroad, one of the original founders, who lives right in town, and another lady that lives in Maryland who inherited a lot of the stock through her family. And they are all it's a 10-member board of directors. They're all were very good to work with. The railroad had 5 businesses or rolled into it. There's my predecessor had broke it up a little bit. So there's a facilities company that we merged into the guest company. So facilities, buildings and grounds, landscaping, things like that. Guest is entertainment, food and beverage, ticketing, retail sales, station services. And we have Railway LLC, which is the passenger and freight operation, and our in-house mechanical on our own locomotives. And Shops LLC, which is all the outsourced mechanical services. Strasburg does mechanical work for pretty much almost everybody with a steam engine. For a long time, there wasn't a lot of competition. Now you have some competition. You have FMW and a few others that are doing similar work. Strasburg does work for Dollywood, Disney World. They have the 614 there right now, the old C&O 614. We had the 611 was there for a while. The big engines are cool. They draw a lot of attention and crowds. But they also eat up the track pretty good. And then I started before I left, we started doing passenger car work for like private varnish and any other things that anybody wants done. We're kind of trying to do a full service facility. Strasburg is the oldest short line railroad in the country at 132 years old at that point. So now it should be probably 133, I guess, give or take. This slide presentation is about a year old. There's 4.5 miles of railroad. There are some people that will argue the point that there's only 3 miles of railroad. Timetable says there's 4.5. Valuation maps say there's 3. So there's a little discrepancy of about 1.5 miles there. I'm not going to argue the point with anybody. Them guys can fight it out themselves. The railroad has 10 locomotives, 20 passenger cars, and 18 antique freight cars. When I left, we had 17 customers, 16 were transload, and 1 has its own siding. Average freight is around 550 cars per year. When I talked to some of my former colleagues out there, we broke 600 for 2024. So we're going in the right direction. We had taken a dip. We went from 500 something down to 340 because one of our large grain customers purchased land and opened a facility along a Norfolk Southern track. So we lost that business, but went out knocking on doors and started getting more business back. Uh, Average passenger counts around 300,000 a year. When I left, it was 168, roughly part-time and full-time employees.
Fucking Joe.
And we have multiple movie and television appearances that we've had there. There's several departments in there, as I mentioned earlier, between the five companies. You have your operations department, mechanical, retail sales, food and beverage, entertainment, grounds maintenance, roadway, IT and procurement, finance, and human resources. And we'll jump over to the locomotives. That's number 90 in the station at East Strasburg. That's engine number 1. It's a Plymouth 20-ton unit. It was purchased new. It's the only engine the railroad purchased new. It runs on gasoline. The engine was refurbished in 2024. And it's almost, as you can see, it's just about 100 years old. The other number 1 is Thomas. It's a Porter 060T, built in 1917. That one is actually a live steam engine, the one that we run out of East Strasburg. It seldom ever leaves there because it has gone to the Henry Ford Museum to run out in Michigan. It's just that it's bigger and heavier than the dummies that we have. Strasburg built all of these under contract with Mattel Toys, who owns the Thomas franchise. Number 2 is 10-ton Plymouth. It's decorated as Rusty, one of the Thomas characters in this picture. Number 10 is a motor car that used to belong to the Lancaster, Oxford, and Southern Railroad. It had ran for many years on Strasburg during the off seasons and such. When I left, it had a bad transmission that they were manufacturing some parts for. The shop is pretty much, the guys in that shop are extremely talented and capable of pretty much building anything or rebuilding anything. It's number 31, or some people like to call it 7312. It's the back burner project. The thought process that I had was to continue working on it and have it out for the 200th anniversary in 2032. 89, which was my personal favorite, that's 260 from the Canadian Locomotive Works, built 1910. Number 90 again, it's Baldwin 210, which just celebrated its 100th birthday. 475, it's 480, it was built in 1906. 972, which was one of George Hart's engines up in the Jim Thorpe area of Pennsylvania. That's owned by Strasburg now. It's Montreal 460. There's no plans there's no immediate plans to restore it, so it currently just sits. 1235 was the newest purchase. It's a SW9, which was an Amtrak SSB 1200. That was the AT Santa Fe's rebuild designation of it. That's the freight workhorse, 8618. It does pretty much everything around the property. She was built in 1952. And these are the engines that are no longer on the property. Number 4, number 21, number 98, 1098, 9331, which is down on the Walkersville Southern Railroad in Maryland. 1223 and 7002 went across the street to the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. And the little steam engine, 16, getting tongue-tied, 16-inch gauge. There's 2 locomotives there. Number 3 is from Coney Island. It's Cagney 440, built in 1920. That's the main engine for that little operation. Thomas's, as 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 they have on top there. There's a Percy. There's only one. None of these are powered. They're all just replicas. There's four Blue Thomases, and there's one narrow gauge Thomas that was up at Eddyville in Massachusetts and is now back in hiding in East Stroudsburg. I don't think I put the picture in here, but if you in February when these things are being all prepped to go out on their national tours and stuff, there'll be three or four of them in the back shop in the three tracks in the engine house and that. And if you go out there like on a Saturday morning and there's only like the nightlight circuit lit and the whole building's not lit up, it's kind of creepy when there's like four of these things staring at you with the weird smile that Thomas has. So you can picture that. Rolling stock. There's four open coaches. The Hello Dolly, the Pleasant View, the Daffodil Spring, and the Valley View. There's 10 coaches in a combine, and each one is named for either a location along the railroad or somebody that had a part in making the railroad what it is today. And they're all restored. We try to rebuild 1 to 2 cars every year from the ground up as needed, woodworking and all. First class cars, there's four of those. There's the Henry Long, which is a lounge car, the Marion, which is the parlor car, the Lee Brenner, which is a dining car, and the Lynn Modinger, which is another lounge car. And we have the President's car from the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad, which is currently being rebuilt from the ground up. That's the rear observation car. That's available for charters, groups and such. There was actually talk of maybe making a bed and breakfast out of it when it's not being used on a train, but that didn't get any traction that I'm aware of. Some of the older vintage rolling stock, there's 3 baggage cars that are kind of cocooned and stuff is stored in them. That's the coaches rather that are cocooned. They can be rebuilt into coaches if business warrants. Baggage cars are regular steel baggage cars that are used for storage. Then there's 6 box cars, 2 tank cars, 2 cabooses, 3 flat cars, a gondola, 2 hoppers, 1 side dump car, the snowplow, and 1 refrigerated car. We have our freight service. Traffic out there includes lumber, feed, fertilizer, aggregates, steel, food grade products, and other commodities. We both originate and receive freight there. So we have inbound freight and outbound freight. We have some covered storage, we have ground space, and we have the 2 yards now. We opened the yard at Lemon Place, and then we have the yard at Strasburg. And here we're transloading vegetable oil from a tank car into a truck. Lumber is a large commodity there. We have a few facilities that get lumber. One of the lumber customers is the one that has their own siding, and the rest are transload. This is the new freight yard at Lemon Place. That's where most of the transloading is going to get, or by now has been moved to. That is also where the one customer is that has their own loading dock, which is Capital Forest Products. It's 8618 moving to 611 around to hand it off to Norfolk Southern to go back to Virginia. And inside the shop is Strasburg Mechanical Services. That's number 90 getting refurbished over the last 2 years. In the mechanical department, they do steam locomotive inspection, restoration, construction, repair, and overhaul. They have engineers on staff. We had two engineers on staff to do boiler design, construction design, and then we also do repair and rebuilds. We have the ASME stamps S and R and BICR and ASMES. Do rail car restoration, as I said before, preservation, repairs, air brake, and appliances, maintenance, custom manufacturing, reproductions, consulting, pretty much do everything. It's a full service shop. And as I said earlier, a bunch of very talented people. And then we have some pictures inside the shop. There's all kinds of machinery and mills and wheel lathes, and these guys can pretty much do everything and build something from the ground up, which they've done. It's another back shop picture. It's another one. Here's number one when it was getting the engine removed and refurbished in it. Wheel lathes. Number 90 with some tubes getting changed out. It's January 24. Some wheels. That would be the upside down boiler of the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad 722, which is ex Southern Railway Baldwin 280. That's also in the process of getting rebuilt. It was bought up here in pieces. It'll go back to North Carolina in pieces, and then it'll be reassembled at their shop in Dillsboro. And I will probably go down there. Strasburg will probably go down there and assist with putting it back together as part of the project. Coach getting some truck work done to it. Locomotive, traction motors were changed out on it. Trucks were rebuilt. That's the 1235. This is a boiler being built from scratch for a well-known theme park that we have NDAs not to discuss their business with it, but I can tell you I can go around that, say it's a theme park that is run by a rodent. That's also a theme park locomotive there being rebuilt from the ground up. Goal is to refurbish two coaches every year, which includes everything from the ground up. They totally strip them down to the frame and just rebuild them from the ground up. We have a couple Amish woodworkers that come in and help with that, and we also have our own woodworkers on staff as well as painters, and again, full service shop with very talented people. They all get new roofs and such, new interiors, reupholstered seats. And that was 611 when it was there running. Current in this picture, it's on display in one of the coach storage tracks. Big locomotive does not, Strasburg switch tracks did not like it very much. We had to reinforce a lot of stuff to run it. I assume 614 will be just as bad. Inside the engine house, it's not quite as bright or modern as the shop is, but the guys work very well in the space that they have and what they have in there. View looking the other way. There's also an air brake shop inside this building where they do all their own brake work. This was kind of interesting. The saddle tank that was stored on the property, it went out to Ohio through arrangements with Venezia Enterprises, and Buchanan Transport supplied the truck. This truck was 194 foot long. It was interesting to watch them do this. We had some heavy duty tow trucks pulling the locomotive onto the trailer. All of those axles on that trailer are steerable, so that people walk with it and they go around all kinds of corners and tight spaces with it, like perfection. The weight of the thing was astronomical, so the saddle tank part had to be taken off and sent on a separate truck. Believe that was owned by the Timber Heritage Association, and then I believe it went to the Age of Steam Roundhouse out in Ohio. Another shot of it sitting in the trailer. Same locomotive. Miscellany, since it's a large tourist attraction and a pretty cool place actually. The buildings and grounds and facilities people, landscapers, they change everything by the season. So in this picture, it's Halloween time. You have the food service department, which provides lunch and dinner in-house and on the trains, wine and cheese trains, anything to do with food. One of the things I did while I was there is I created Lefevre Hall. We had a naming contest for it. It was named after president that was there for a short time after Lynn Moedinger retired. That Mr. Lefevre came down with pancreatic cancer and passed away within, I think, 2 years or so of being in charge of everything. I never met him, so I don't know much about him, but there was an empty space in another building that was half empty and half portrait studio. So we moved the portrait studio around, and I had them turn the rest of the space into a meeting hall for parties, and people would come in and do a birthday party on a train or a wedding party or whatever, and the train ride's 45 minutes long, and that's pretty much it. So I figured we got dead space. Why don't we make a meeting room or a banquet hall of sorts out of it? It's only can hold like 54 people. It's not huge, but it adds to the experience. So you could start your party in there, go on a train ride, come back, or vice versa. And it actually became a decent revenue generator for the food service division. So that was actually a good idea and it worked well. Here's a picture of some stuff being shuffled around at the engine house. Thomas has sort of a face mask on. Part of the Mattel agreement is that anytime Thomas is outside and not at a Thomas event, the face has to be covered. Santa Claus is another big thing. And like most tourist railroads, Christmas is the cash cow. It's the make it or break it on the tourist trains. So Easter being second. Strasburg does a lot of Halloween stuff too. And we have track structure property maintenance. We put a new ash pit in 2023 and redid the track behind the back shop because the track closest to this picture wasn't hooked up to anything. Once you went out the back door, it kind of stopped. And the other projects at the coal dock needs to be refurbished, and about 300 ties need to go in to get everything all shored up in the area. Entertainment, another popular thing there. They do an escape room, murder mystery trains, entertainment trains, the Thomas events, little vaudeville shows. again, another, anything to make a little bit more interesting and things to do. And that's the end of that one. So I didn't quite make an hour. I made 45 minutes. I hope that's all right. But if anybody's got any questions or wants to talk about anything, we can do that too.
Very interesting presentation of your time at the Strasburg Railroad. This is a place recommended for rail enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, when I was at Strasburg and when 611 was there, I was a fireman and I was lucky to get those tickets at the last minute before they were sold out completely.
Mm-hmm.
And what's best of all is that we've got the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania across the street, the Choo Choo Barn and the Strasburg Train Shop, Red
Right.
Caboose Motel, and even the
Yep.
Train Collectors Association.
Yep. And the people that bought the Red Caboose Motel a couple of years ago have turned that into a venue too. They have that banquet hall out back where they're doing weddings and different things. And they wanted to make a station stop out there, which it looked like it was talked about before I left, but I've seen pictures. It looks like they may have made a little walkway out to the tracks and that because they were thinking, as part of their wedding venue, they might be able to, uh, tie it in with a train ride. Like after the regular schedule or and that in the evening or on the weekends. And we've had in the time I was there, we had quite a few people do wedding charters and that. They rent a car or two, or they have their uh, pre-wedding dinner. I can't think of the name of what I'm trying to say, but the pre-wedding dinner for the wedding party and that they've had them there and that. So yeah, it all kind of ties together. And one of the things I tried to do out there was reestablish uh, friendships with partnerships and that with some of the local tourist agencies and the farmland preservation groups and um, the the Caboose people, the motel Caboose Motel people with the venue that they did. So we were trying to resurrect some partnerships, build some new partnerships, and go in the right direction. But it's a cool railroad by all means.
Lots of activity too.
Yep. Freight freight out there runs whenever it's needed. It could be one day a week, could be 5 days a week. Um, they try to do it in the morning before the trains run, but often they end up intermingling between the trains. They have that choreographed really well. It works. And most cars don't sit on the property. If they're empty, they go right back out again. Norfolk Southern would come in there overnight on Wednesday and overnight on Saturday were the 2 days that they interchanged.
Freight schedules may vary.
Yep.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I think what I'm interested in is your mechanical services. I can remember, I think I'm right on this one. I think you did some work on the big boy, Union Pacific 4014. And secondly, on the 618, I think you're going to rebuild that from scratch.
They're doing work out there. The 4114 was before my time. They do a lot of work also on stuff that isn't there. So they'll build parts and ship them out, or sometimes they'll do road trips to work on stuff. They're working on some stuff for Colebrookdale Railroad right now, and those engines are down in Boyertown. So they do a lot of work that you don't see. So a lot of the steam locomotives don't come there because it's like a nightmare trying to move a steam locomotive on a class one railroad anymore. Sometimes they're trucked in, sometimes they're worked on off site. Sometimes they do make it in by rail. And if they make it in by rail, it's because whoever's wants them rebuilt has deep pockets.
Anyone in the room have any questions? Does anyone else online have any final questions? All right, then, Jim, thank you so much. That was a really great presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.